Hi there, Elspeth here, also known as the Speedy Vegan, and today I thought I'd show you how I make my roasted carrot and cumin soup with cashew cream and shiitake bacon. So there are a couple of steps to this, and let's get going. This is a perfect recipe for springtime. There's a hint of spring in the air, but it is still a little chilly, so soup is very welcome. It's also a really beautiful dish to serve for Easter dinner. So let me show you what I do. So first up, I have my oven turned on, and I'm going to get these carrots roughly chopped and roasting in the oven. So what I do with the carrots is that I scrub them fairly well. This is what 2 pounds of carrots look like, and I just sort of top and tail the carrots and then rough chop them. I hang on to all the little bits for my stock bag. I'll tell you more about that in a moment. But let me just get these in the oven. So with all these little bits, I could throw them in my compost, but I also have a little bag that I always keep in my freezer that I hang on to. Uh-oh, we have a visitor here. My dog Prince absolutely loves carrots. I'm gonna give him a little bit. Here you go, sweetie. All right, off you go. He always comes running when I chop up carrots. So I'm gonna put all my little bits and pieces. So I have onion and parsley stems and carrots and zucchini bits, and I turn that into stock. I'll tell you more about that a little bit later. So I'm just going to sort of rough chop all of these carrot bits. There's nothing, you know, they can be sort of a uniform size, but nothing, no beautiful knife skills needed here. I just want them in big chunks. I have a large baking sheet here that I'm going to pop all the carrots onto and get these in the oven. So this is just a baking sheet that's lined with parchment paper. You could also use a silicone lined baking sheet, and that'll do just fine. So, these are going to roast for about an hour, and halfway through I'm going to put the onion in. I might try and cut some of these chunks just a little bit down so that they roast at the same time. I will keep checking on them, but that's pretty good. Like I say, no knife skills needed, just, oh, he's back for more. Okay, not with this. One more piece of carrot. There you go, on your bed. Off you go. So the carrots are chopped up, and the next thing I need to do is roast a head of garlic. So this is what a head of garlic looks like. And whenever I roast garlic, I usually do, you know, more than I need because it's absolutely fabulous. Nothing quite like roasted garlic. So what I do is I put the garlic into some parchment paper and I just make it in a bundle, and then I wrap silver foil around the outside. And I'm going to just put that on my tray, spread the carrots out, and I'm going to pop these into the oven. I'll set my timer for 30 minutes, and in the meantime I can get going on a few other things. So I am going to need onion, and I like to use red onion. You could use any color onion, but red onion just has a little bit more nutrition value to it, some anthocyanin, etc. So I'm just going to, nothing fancy about this either. I'm just going to cut each end off of the onion, and I'm going to pop all of the bits of peel into my stock bag because I can use this to make a beautiful vegetable stock. And then I'm just going to cut this into about 8 chunks. So I quarter it and then cut it into 8s, and that just gives me a nice even size of onion. And I'll just put that in my bowl and set that aside. The onion's going to cook a whole lot faster than the carrots, so I'll put that in at the 30-minute mark. But there are a few other things that we can do to get ready for the soup. So the one is for the cashew cream. I'm going to soak my cashew. These are just raw cashew nuts. I'm going to soak them in some water whilst everything else is roasting. So I'll just pop some water in here. and set those aside to soak. And I'm going to get going on my shiitake bacon. So the carrots are roasting at 375 degrees. The shiitake bacon needs to be 350 degrees. So I happen to have two ovens here, so I'm going to go ahead and get these going in the second oven. So I've just taken some shiitakes. Shiitake mushrooms are these beautiful sort of Japanese style mushrooms that I've just sliced up, you know, fairly thin. They do shrink down a lot, so don't go too thin on them. But you're just going to sort of slice the mushrooms and the stems. All I do is I cut the little woody end of the stems off, but I hang on to everything else. And I'm just going to toss this with a little bit of liquid smoke and coconut aminos. So I have a larger bowl here. So this is liquid smoke. It's just going to add a nice sort of smokiness to it. You don't have to add it. It is optional. And this is liquid aminos, which gives it a little bit more of that savory. It's a very low sodium addition here. You don't need to add that at all. You could just use some salt-free seasoning if you wanted. So just a little liquid smoke, a little coconut aminos. If you do use salt, you could use something like tamari, which is it's a gluten-free soy product. And I just toss that in together. And then I have another baking sheet here. So this is just a baking sheet that I've lined with a silicone baking mat. You could use a parchment baking mat. It's just going to help in the cleanup process. And I have a wire rack here that I could use. Or you could use a non-stick baking rack. In fact, that would be a better option. I should have grabbed that. So, and then I'm just going to turn the mushrooms out onto this. Get every last bit. And I'm just going to sort of lay them out on the rack. Some might fall through. That's why it might be better to use the non-stick baking sheet, in fact. So sort of get a single layer, if possible, on this wire rack. And I'm going to pop this into the lower oven at 350 degrees and we'll check on it. So we've gone ahead with a few steps. We'll check back on the carrots and see how they're doing and then add the onions to them. Be right back. So because I'm using a very high-speed blender, I thought I'd go ahead and make the cashew cream while we're waiting for everything to cook. So I'm going to drain the cashews. If you don't have a high-speed blender, I would suggest soaking the nuts for about an hour or so, but because I'm using a Vitamix, I'm able to do this a little quicker. So I've drained my cashews, and then to this I'm going to add just 1 clove of garlic. I don't need to mince this up or anything because it is going to be blended. I also need 1 tablespoon of lemon juice, and I've left my knife, so I'm going to grab my knife. So I'm just going to cut this lemon. And I love this citrus press. I did put one of these in my Amazon store. So this is just a handheld citrus press. Just estimate about a tablespoon of lemon juice. And I'm going to add some water. So I'm not going to add all the water. I'm just going to see how it blends. And then I can always add more if I need it. I'll just screw this on and we'll get this blended. Blender's working a little bit hard. I will add some more water to this now. So you can always add water, you can't take it away. So depending on how thick you want your cashew cream, it does thicken up a little in the fridge. So just know that if you do overdo it with the blending or overdo it with the water, it will thicken up a little bit. So I'll get this blended some more. So the cashew cream looks like it's going to be the right consistency. We'll just set that aside. I could taste it and add some seasoning to it if I wanted, but there's going to be a whole lot of flavor in the soup. This is more for looks and creaminess than anything else. I did take the mushrooms out of the oven, the shiitake bacon out of the oven, and I'm just going to turn over each piece. So it's not as important when you're putting the pieces of mushroom onto a baking rack, because on the wire rack, because the air, hot air is circulating underneath the slices. But if you are just putting it on a silicone baking sheet, you will need to turn over each piece just so that each side can get crispy. It smells amazing. The umami flavor of the shiitake mushrooms is wonderful, but that smoked, liquid smoke and coconut aminos is also giving it a great aroma. So I'm going to pop these back in for another 10 minutes. But I do need to keep a close eye on the mushrooms because they can burn, and there's a sort of happy medium. Just know that they do crisp up a whole lot more once they start to cool. So don't try and get them too crispy in the oven because they will crisp up. So we'll check back on the carrots in a moment. So I'm going to check on the shiitake bacon. I really don't want to have burnt mushrooms. Wow, that looks about right. Some of the pieces are a little bit thicker, so they've plumped up, but some of these smaller, thin pieces are just going to be perfect for this dish. So all I need to do now is just set this aside, let them cool off, because as I say, they do crisp up while they cool. So I'll set those aside, and it's been almost 30 minutes with the carrots, so I'm going to go ahead and check on the carrots and add the onions to it. So here we go. There's the alarm. So the carrots are starting to roast. These are big chunks of carrot. They can definitely go another 30 minutes or so. So just toss them around a little bit. This is my garlic that's roasting. Everything's smelling really great. And I'm just going to add these onions that we had chopped up to the baking tray as well. So again, I want to sort of break up the onions just a little bit so that they can get nice and roasted, and spread everything out in a single layer. Make sure there's a little bit of air, the hot air that can circulate around all of the vegetables so that they can get evenly roasted. And I'll pop this back into the oven for another 30 minutes. And then we'll be able to blend up our soup and make it look really pretty for our Easter table or our spring table or just a weeknight dinner table. All right, it's time to check on our carrots and onions. So these look beautiful. So we've got our roasted carrots and roasted onions. I'm just going to taste a little. If you want to skip the whole soup idea and just eat the roasted vegetables right now, go ahead and do that. But wow, really good. So I just gather up all of the vegetables and I'm going to add them to the blender. You could definitely wait and let the vegetables cool down a bunch, but I am going to be adding some stock to here that is not hot. So I'm going to go ahead and add this all to my blender. And some of the vegetables are sticking here. And this is our roasted garlic. So these are nice and soft. They could go longer, but they are nice and soft. They're also quite hot. I just need one of these for this recipe. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut the root end off of the garlic. And as I say, this is hot. If you have a little time, you could let it cool before you try and handle it, but I'm going to use my tough chef hands here. And I pull back some of the little papery bits of it, and then I'm just going to squeeze out all these delicious, whoops, well that didn't work out too well. I'm going to squeeze out all of the delicious garlic from here. Maybe I will let that cool for a minute before I handle it. I'm going to add the other ingredients to the blender whilst this cools off a little bit. So I'm going to add some vegetable stock. So when I was cutting up the vegetables in the beginning, I was adding all the bits of onion and carrot tops to a Ziploc bag. I keep this Ziploc bag in the freezer, and every time I'm cooking, I just add more to it. So anything like, you know, parsley stalks or zucchini bits, I just add that into my bag and pop that in the freezer. And then when that bag is full, I might put it into a large stock pot or into my Instant Pot. I just put all the vegetables in, I add some extra garlic or some bay leaves, and I just cook it up till all the vegetables have softened completely and all of their flavors have infused with the water. In an Instant Pot, I probably cook it for about 12 minutes. In a pot, I'll probably let it go for about 30 minutes. And then I just strain it out, and you're left with beautiful vegetable stock. So this one is a little darker. I think I had some of the red onion skins in it. And this one is a little clearer. So depends on what you have in your bag, what the stock's going to look like. So I'm going to add about 4 cups of water to the vegetables. 4 cups of vegetable stock to the roasted vegetables. And this is cooled a little bit now, so I'm going to squeeze the roasted garlic into here. And roasted garlic is a whole lot sweeter and way more delicious than just regular garlic. So again, I can add the roasted garlic skins to my bag. And the root part that I cut off, and there's a little bit more here. I can just squeeze all this garlic. This is wonderful for just spreading onto a pizza crust or a taco shell. Roasted garlic is wonderful. I always have it in my refrigerator. So these guys will go into my refrigerator for another day, and I'm just going to get blending on this soup. So a couple of other ingredients that I need to add to the soup. I have cumin, and that's what's going to give it a lovely flavor. Cumin and carrot goes really well together. I'm also going to add some black pepper, totally optional, and some salt-free seasoning. The salt-free seasoning that I like to use is Benson's Table Tasty, and I'll also maybe have a little bit of this at the end to sprinkle on top. So this is the first sort of flavor that you will have. Get me some black pepper. And I can add more later. Once I've heated up the soup, I can taste it as well. And blend those flavors together. You just want to blend it till it's really nice and smooth. And I'm just going to taste it here, and then we will heat this up. I'm going to make sure it's the flavor I want. Wow, that is a great combination. I am going to add some more vegetable stock. I think the recipe that I wrote, which I will link to in the show notes, calls for about 6 cups. So I blend about 4 now, and then I'll add a little bit more. Perfect. So now I'm just going to pour it into a pot. Or you could pause at this stage. I mean, you can do this the day before. There's, you know, or a couple of days before. It really doesn't matter. But when you're ready to serve it, you want to just pour all the contents into a nice soup pot and just warm it through, and then we'll ladle it into bowls, and I'll change the camera angle and show you exactly how I like to plate it. But we're going to let the soup warm up for a moment. So the soup has warmed up. I'm going to just give it a little bit of a stir and make sure it is about the right thickness that I want. I could always add a little extra vegetable stock, but this looks absolutely perfect. So I'm going to ladle some into a few bowls here. It's beautiful and smells amazing. So I'm just going to go with about 2 ladles of soup in here. In each bowl. I have a little wet paper towel just so that I can clean up any splashes that I might have on the edge of the bowls. And then this is the cashew cream that we had made. So I can do a number of things with it. I could put it into one of these squirty bottles and, you know, do a little drizzle around it. I'm going to go ahead and just use a teaspoon on top of this first one. So I like to just plop it in the middle of the soup, and you can see it's going to stay on top of the soup. It's not going to sink down at all, so maybe a little bit more. And then I just do a little drizzle around, and that kind of looks pretty for that one. And I'll probably do the same for the second. And scoop up that bit that I got carrot on, and I'll just do a little swirl. There's so many fun things you can do with cashew cream. Wow, that looks good. And then all we need to do now is add some of our shiitake bacon on top. So I just like to pile that in the middle of the cashew cream, and you can do as much as you want or as little as you want, and try and get it to sort of stand up a little bit. But what you're left with is some delicious roasted carrot and cumin soup with cashew cream and shiitake bacon. Not bad. So that's it for the roasted carrot and cumin soup with cashew cream and shiitake bacon. I do have some extra cashew cream that I'll just keep in the refrigerator, and the extra shiitake mushrooms I'll just pop into a little container and keep those in the refrigerator too for when I want to finish up the soup. I also wanted to just show you that I use these mason jars for lunchbox soup. So this is a great way to just ladle a few spoons of soup into here. I add the cashew cream drizzle, shiitake bacon, and I pop that into my husband's lunchbox. So just another fun way to present this delicious soup. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and find out more about our next recipes that we will be posting. And the recipe for this will be in the show notes below. Please hit the subscribe button. It really helps support our work. Thank you, and have a wonderful spring day.